John Moeller. I'm the current chair of biology, and I've served some other roles too. I've been the health career advisor, and I also have served throughout the campus. So if you have questions outside of biology or healthcare, we can perhaps tackle some of those too. I've been here probably about, I guess, since 2007. So, and I have wonderful colleagues here, and I'll introduce one. Here's Dr. Stefanie Baker.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Moeller. I'm Stefanie Baker. I came here after Dr. Moeller, so I've been here 12 years. And I teach microbiology and genetics and biochemistry, so I like everything little in biology. I do like big things like dogs and people, but I prefer to study little things like bacteria. I'm trying to think of what else to say. I have some hobbies outside of school, like music and Disney trivia and things like that. But I really enjoy teaching at a liberal arts college and getting to meet students from all over the place who also have a love of the liberal arts and want to learn more than just science. Even though I focus on science, it's nice to dabble outside of science every once in a while.
So we didn't have any real formal presentation here. We wanted to see what you all were interested in. What could we answer, or what questions did you have? And so is there any questions about the college, classes, interim, that maybe we can answer at this point?
John, could you give maybe a general overview of the program, the biology program, and maybe how that translates into the pre-med program as well?
Sure. Our pre-med or health careers program is primarily an advising program. So we have a coordinator. Dr. Natalie Spivey is the current coordinator of the program. It involves several advisors in several of the sciences, so biology, chemistry, psychology, and physics. All have advisors throughout that specialize in either pre-med or other health careers like PT or PA or optometry and things like that. So we coordinate across all those departments to try to ensure that we are reaching out to all students, and even those that maybe don't major in one of the sciences. So for most of these programs, they're not requiring any particular major. However, I would say the vast majority of our students, we have a lot of students that are interested in pre-med specifically, and we do very well at getting students into med school and have for quite some time. And so most of the students usually major in biology or chemistry. So our department plays sort of an outside role in managing those programs. And of course, a lot of the courses that are required by schools, or especially prepping for the MCAT, are the science. The MCAT exam is a science exam, and a big part of it's biology. So we've always kind of, our department has played this role primarily in sort of trying to coordinate all that, but it involves the whole campus to a large degree, especially all the sciences. And so within our department, however, our focus is, we are biologists, we're not clinicians, but we know quite a bit about med school and PT programs and things like that. When I used to every summer go down to the med schools and talk to them. They come up and give presentations to our students. And we always take them out to dinner, mainly just to have a conversation. It's like, what's changing? We had, Dr. Spivey had a lot of conversations with the med schools under this COVID situation. How is that going to change in terms of interviews? How is that going to be, how is that going to influence the process of applications, MCAT exams and things like that? So our pre-med program and our health careers programs is primarily about advising, but there is that very close connection in terms of the sciences. And of course, it's us professors that are basically running the program.
Awesome, thanks. Dr. Baker, could you talk maybe a little bit about the faculty to student relationship at Wofford and how that might be different from maybe some of the other colleges or experiences that others might find?
Sure. I went to a very large public state college for undergraduate, and graduate school. So my classes were very large. So I have a good basis for comparison to what it's like to be at a small liberal arts college. Just for example, my first semester, I took biology, which was a 5-credit lab course, chemistry, which was a 4-credit lab course, calculus, which was a 4-credit course, and English and marching band. And if I look at that and thought, if I had a first-year student now and they tried to sign up for that, I would be like, that is really an awful lot to put on your plate, to have 2 lab sciences and, you know, a math course that's 4 credits. That's an awful lot. Of course, we didn't have interim to help us with the hours for the year either. And so when I went to my chemistry class, I was one of, say, 200 people, and there were 10 sections of chemistry running during that semester. So, you know, there were, you know, thousands of students taking the course at the same time, and we had to go at night to take our exams, and we took them all all at the same time. Every chemistry 101 student took the exam at the same time. My biology class, there was majors and non-majors, but there was only one majors class, and we met in an auditorium that would hold like 300 people, and if you sat in the back, you couldn't read what the teachers were writing on the board. So if you contrast that to what we have here at Wofford, my biggest class has been, I think I've had 40 students, but that's rare. Usually I have maybe 24 to 28 students in a class. And then sometimes I have the pleasure of having a class with only 5 students because it's an upper level class. That's happened once, and that was very wonderful. So our faculty to student ratio is much different than what it is at a big school. And I send emails to my students when they don't turn their homework in. You know, if I notice a pattern, I take roll every day by just looking up and putting a check mark by their name on a spreadsheet. Whereas when I was in college, they took roll by passing a sheet around and you signed your name because your professors didn't know who you were. When it comes time to write letters of recommendation, you know, I know my students. When I went to ask my professors for letters of recommendation, I wondered, what are they going to write? Because do they even know who I am? So that's a really big difference between having the small class size and forming a good relationship with the faculty member. And I encourage students to really do that, because that really helps with the letters of recommendation that are required for jobs, for graduate school, for medical school. So get to know your professors. Don't be afraid of us. Come talk to us. Right now I'm doing all my appointments by Zoom, but normally I say, you know, if my door's open, you're welcome to poke your head in and say, do you have a minute? Sometimes I have to say, I don't have a minute right now, but I'll be glad to schedule a minute with you, you know, sometime later today or tomorrow. And I have an appointment calendar, and students just go make their own appointments to come by and see me. And we chat before lab starts. We, you know, chat about what did we do this weekend before class starts. So, you know, I get to know my students personally, and that's one of the things that really drew me to a school like Wofford instead of going to a really big school.
That's great. We did have a question in the chat, or a couple questions in the chat. Does Wofford have a relationship with healthcare providers who facilitate internships for students?
Yes, we do. So we have a interim program that perhaps you heard of, and for juniors and seniors of good standing, they can take our pre-med internship, and so 4 weeks they can shadow doctors at the local hospitals here. So we have a connection with them to arrange for physicians to shadow with. We can't, and there's course credit associated with that. Because of certain liabilities, we can't really do it outside that, although our Health Careers Advising Program helps students in the process of making those connections with the hospital outside of the classroom experience. And so we try to assist that in many different ways. Our students that are interested in physical therapy or nursing or pre-vet, we don't have a specific dedicated interim for those, but the nice thing about interim is you can design your own interim, or you can do what's called a learning work interim, which is basically a series of internships. So if you can arrange the connections with vets or physical therapists, we can help you create an interim around that. And then, like I said, outside the classroom, we'll assist however we can in helping make those connections to healthcare providers.
Awesome. And I know that there are lots of students who look forward to those interim times for sure. There were some questions just about general numbers. First being, how many students are typically per biology major, or how many students are in each academic program? And then just more a general kind of statistics question about science majors, like how many of the Wofford students on Wofford's campus are participating in that pre-med program?
Okay, I can tackle this one because I've actually managed some of those numbers and have looked at them recently in a small working group with the college. So with regards to, let's see, in terms of how many biology majors are there per class, we graduate typically, I think about is 70 to 80, is that right, Dr. Baker?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, and we are one of, I would say, probably one of the largest majors. We probably have about 18% of the majors at the college are biology majors. Pursuing a lot of different things, just not pre-med, but other health careers, interest in research and things like that. So there's, we are a fairly large department, and we have currently about 14 faculty members within the department. And let's see, did I get all the statistics questions?
We did have one about students who apply to med school and then what percentage get accepted.
Okay, how many students do you have? Yeah, so we typically are up to somewhere between 30 and 40 a year, I believe. It varies from year to year. And we've been keeping track of this since 1994. And all the data we get comes from the MCAS, which is, it's not data that we collect, it's data from the primary source where you apply for med school. And they also run the MCAT, things like that. So we get all that information from them of all the applicants. So, and they break it down by GPA, by MCAT, by how many schools they got accepted into, and which school they matriculated in. So we have a lot of great data that we get each year. And on average, one thing we do, let me qualify this, is we create a category called, now I'm gonna have blank. What's that?
Is it qualified?
Yeah. So we create a category called qualified applicants. And we do that to normalize from year to year. And so what a qualified applicant is anyone with a GPA above 3.3 and an MCAT score above the 50th percentile. So it's not really restrictive, but we just want to normalize from year to year. And based on that, we've averaged about, in that group, about 78% on average. Sometimes it's been up in the 80s, sometimes it's dipped down in the 60s, but overall it's been about 78%. If we look at all the applicants, so we don't restrict it in any way, that's probably about 2/3 get in on average. So we do very well, and I think there's many reasons for that. Part of it is, with that previous question, just that connection with students. We can write for our students really fairly, for a lot of our students, fairly detailed letters about them. We know them quite well in a lot of cases. And so I think that goes a long way with regards to applications.
We did have one question about AP scores being accepted when you're majoring in these subjects.
I can answer that if you'd like for me to.
Sure, yeah.
So for AP credit, the way that works for biology majors is if you get a certain score on the AP exam, then you can get credit for biology 101 or 102. And that does not count towards the major, but it does count towards the hours that you need to graduate. So to graduate from Wofford, you have to have 120 hours to graduate. So that would be 8 hours towards that 120 hours. So that's like 8 hours of elective credit. We do require students to take our introductory class because it's different from introductory classes at other colleges, and it's very different from what is learned in AP biology, because it's an inquiry-based course. So there's a lot of effort put into experimental design and just what is science, what kind of questions can science answer, what kind of questions can science not answer. So it's not a content-driven course like what an AP biology course is. The AP biology courses are very heavy content. And what we want to work on in our introductory biology course are skills. We'll work on communication skills, like how to prepare good graphs, to write figure captions, how to talk about data. So we feel like students really need that exposure to build a very good foundation for the upper level courses. So we know that when a student comes into Biology 212, which is the second course, that's genetics, we know what they had in Biology 150. And so with Biology 150, our introductory course, we're really trying to get all students as close to the same level of playing field as possible, because we want our students to all be successful as they go into the upper level classes.
That's great. Are introductory courses required for science majors like chemistry? And also, does the same rules apply for chemistry majors? I think that applies across the board, correct, with AP credits?
Actually, I think for chemistry, they might be able to go ahead and get credit for the major level chemistry.
I believe that's correct.
Okay, great.
Right, so that means that if they have the credit for chemistry, they can go right into organic chemistry.
Awesome.
And I would just like to add, most colleges across the US do not allow AP credit to count for their introductory biology courses. That's pretty typical.
That's good to know. I just kind of want to shift gears from maybe more of the statistical side of what you guys do. Perhaps there's a course that each of you looks forward to particularly each year, a place where you see a lot of students grow, or one that's the most entertaining.
Stefanie?
Oh, well, I'm teaching my dream course right now. It's microbiology. Like I said, I love everything little. I absolutely love teaching microbiology. And when I first came to Wofford, someone else was teaching it. And when I got the chance, well, I jumped at it. It's like, I can't wait to teach microbiology. And the difference that it made to my quality of life as a teacher was huge. Um, I also teach, like I said, genetics and biochemistry and things, and I really like genetics as well. But microbiology is my passion. That's what I majored in actually in college. So all my degrees are in microbiology and or genetics. And the students just love the lab because the lab is so different from other labs. It's the only, well, it's not the only lab, but it's the lab I get the comment, this is fun the most often. They get to be detectives and learn how to figure out, if I give them a bacterium and they don't know what it is, they learn how to figure out what it is. So they really like that. And the assignment that goes with it, I'm sure that some of the students out there going, ooh, that doesn't sound like fun, but the students actually really love it. They have to turn in a portfolio of their work because microbiology is a skills-based lab, and they have to demonstrate that they mastered how to do each one of these skills. But I give them a lot of creative freedom with that. So I've got one last year where the student made it like a murder mystery. And so the bacterium was the murderer and supposedly murdered me. And at first, when the student told me that, I'm like, oh my goodness, they want to murder me. But it turned out in the end that I, for some reason, had just fallen asleep in lab and I wasn't dead. So, but it was so much fun to read that and see the students get really excited. And I get to see a different side of my students, the creative side. You know, in science, you know, a lot of times the students want to know, well, what's this fact and what's that fact and what do I have to know for the MCAT? And since microbiology is not on the MCAT, I'm not constrained by having to teach what they have to know for that. And so I can just pick the topics that I love and I want to talk about. And so, you know, I really love that. And then I really like genetics too, because I like the problem solving aspect. And most students are just inherently interested in genetics. They want to know, why do I look like this? Why do I do that? I mean, we can't answer all those questions in genetics, but they like to ask those questions, and they're familiar with doing some of those types of problems from high school. So there's some comfort there. So those are my two favorite courses.
I'm actually teaching my favorite course too this semester, animal behavior. So I'm a neurobiologist and animal behaviorist. My undergraduate degree was in physiology, and I love teaching that course too. I like this course a lot because I'm able to integrate a lot. So these are students that have already had our intro courses, genetics, cell, often had physiology. So they're coming in with a lot of background material. And so I'm really able to sort of integrate the genetics and ecology and neurobiology and physiology together. And again, I teach it in a module approach. So the field is really vast. So there's no way in a single semester I could cover everything. So we'll spend a week on hyena social behavior, and we'll look at primary literature, and we'll look at the theory behind it. Another week, we'll tackle social bonding in voles. And this coming week, we're looking at foraging behaviors in crows that pick up marine snails and fly up and drop them. And we're looking at the nature of those behaviors and what influences the expression of those behaviors. It also has a lab, and I teach it kind of like a research course. So it's open-ended. We discuss the first couple weeks some particular problems that they could approach and some animal models they can use. And so they design the experiment and carry that out throughout the whole semester, sometimes leading to a presentation at the end. Now this semester with COVID, we have to change things up a little bit. So we're doing it in a slightly different format, but I really enjoy that course. So.
That's awesome. Well, we've got about 4 minutes left in the session, so I want to encourage folks, if they have questions, to submit them in the chat. But just to kind of leave students with maybe some words of advice, is there anything that you would encourage these students as they're looking at colleges or looking at what programs they might be interested in? Any words of advice about biology as a field or pursuing a college experience?
Well, I would certainly say, look at different schools. Certainly, if you have the opportunity, visit the schools and talk to folks at the school. I think, with regards to biology, you want, even if you're going into healthcare, you want to have a diversity of experiences, perhaps in research, perhaps in a clinical setting, and so forth. And so, ask around what kind of opportunities are there at that college for pursuing your interests. And the nice thing about med school these days is they're not looking for any narrow check off the box kind of thing. They want, just like we at Wofford, we want interesting students that are driven to learn and to explore. And med schools are the same way. So they're looking for that same type of student. And we also realize, both at Wofford and the med schools realize this, is that part of the best environment for learning is have a diversity of students with diverse experiences. And so I think, really discover what are the opportunities there, not only what is the academic setting, but what are the other opportunities there.
Kind of piggybacking off of that really kind of goes along with a question that we've got. There's two. What differentiates Wofford's biology major from that at other small liberal arts colleges in the South? And then also, what might some other career opportunities in biology be outside of those pre-professional, pre-med, or pre-health careers?
Sure. Stefanie, do you want to tackle one of those and I'll tackle the other?
Yeah, so maybe I'll tackle what are the career opportunities in biology outside of pre-professional programs. Well, Dr. Moeller and I both have careers outside of that. Of course, I've had several former students who are now college professors, several former students who are teaching in public high schools, private high schools, do educational outreach like through the Department of Natural Resources or some other educational institution like that. I have several students who went on to work at the Greenwood Genetics Center, lots of students who've gone to graduate school and gone into various areas of biology. I mean, it's so broad, it's hard to kind of pinpoint what they do the most outside of pre-professional programs. I've had students end up in different countries doing different things, working with different agencies, with non-government, is that what the NGOs, the non-government organizations? So and then the pre-professional programs that we think of with biology is usually like medical school or something like that. But I've had students go to law school and use their knowledge of biology and environmental law or patent law. So really, whatever you can imagine, you can do.
Okay. So I think the question is, what differentiates Wofford's biology major from that of other small liberal arts colleges in the South? And I know of quite a few of the other colleges indirectly, some better than others. I think there's something special about small liberal arts colleges in general. I think even though we're small, we do, piggybacking on my other comment about finding out opportunities, I think we do really well in advising students. I mean, that's one of our major goals. I am an advisor. I have, I think, 25 students that I advise, and that changes from year to year as seniors graduate. We are a very close department, and we communicate really well with one another. And I think our structure allows us to all inform each other about opportunities. We really go out of our way to assist students in whatever their goals are. We're not, it's just we have that conversation. I think each of us sits down with our advisees and starts that conversation and finds out what they're interested in. And if we don't know the answer, the nice thing about Wofford is you just call up the phone to someone else and find out and direct a student in that way. So I think it's, I'm sure other schools do that, but I think we do it fairly well. And so we have a lot of networks within the college and outside the college to assist students to find the right career path for them. So even though we have this one population, pre-meds, that we do really well, I think, you know, we go out of our way to make sure that students are finding the right path for them.
Awesome. Well, I want to be really respectful of everybody's time today. It looks like we're right at the 6 o'clock mark. If others have questions, you can certainly reach out to us in our admission office, or reach out to faculty members if you would like, or we can get you in contact with them. So there are lots of ways for you guys to ask questions, not just at these sessions, and we hope to be able to invite you guys on to campus in the spring, or to continue to bring you virtual events like this. But I just want to take a moment to thank Dr. Moeller and Dr. Baker for joining us, and to thank the students for joining us as well and engaging in a lively chat. So I hope everybody has a great rest of their day. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.